Suara.
Suara is here.
Syracuse.
Here.
Toombs. Berkshire.
Here.
Young.
Present.
And Councilmember Mendez. I see your name on there. So we have 11 present right now, which is a quorum.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and read the motion pursuant to Governor Lee's Executive Order number 65 regarding electronic meetings. I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak.
Second. Second.
Thank you so very much. Director Cooper, can you do a roll call vote?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Allen.
Aye.
Benedict.
Aye.
Druffel.
Aye.
Glover.
Aye.
Mendez. Porterfield.
Aye.
Roten.
Aye.
Suara.
Suara is here.
Syracuse.
Aye.
Aye.
Toombs.
Aye.
Berkshire.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
11 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you so very much, Director Cooper. And now we'll go into the consent agenda. Today on the consent agenda, we have RS 2020-677, RS 2020-678, RS 2020-679, RS 2020-680, RS 2020-681, RS 2020-683, RS 2020-684, RS 2020-685, RS 2020-686, RS 2020-687, RS 2020-688, RS 2020-691, and BL 2020-552. Do we have anything that needs to be bumped from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I would like you to read that and do it slower, please, because I'm not back in my office and I was not able to pronounce consent. So if you would repeat it to where I can keep up with what you're doing. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I will read that again. That's RS 2020-677, RS 2020-678, RS 2020-679, RS 2020-680, RS 2020-681, RS 2020-683, RS 2020-684, RS 2020-685, RS 2020-686, RS 2020-687, RS 2020-688, RS 2020-691, and BL 2020-552. Does anyone have, you're welcome, Councilman Glover. Does anyone have anything that they would like to bump from the consent agenda? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read the captions on the agenda. I don't see any hands in the queue. RS 2020-677, Withers, Syracuse, Taylor, Evans, Toombs, and O'Connell amends ordinance number BL 2020-234 to extend the time period for a waiver of certain building permit fees for the repair or rebuilding of property damage as a result of the March 3rd, 2020 tornado. RS 2020-678, Toombs, Gamble, Welsh, Soror, and Stiles approves an application for a Victims of Crime Act grant from the Tennessee Office of Criminal Justice Programs to the Office of Family Safety for funding to enhance equipment at both family safety centers. RS 2020-679, Toombs, Taylor, Welsh, Hancock, Soror, Hurt, and Stiles approves a contract between the Metro Board of Health and STARS Nashville to fund an epidemiologist position to study data regarding cigarette smoking, vaping, and e-cigarette use with a primary focus on children and young adults. RS 2020-680, Toombs, Taylor, Welsh, Sorora, and Hurt, approves Amendment 4 to a grant contract from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metro Board of Health to improve the health of those residing in or visiting Davidson County through targeted strategies to prevent and control the use of tobacco products. RS 2020-681, Toombs, Taylor, Welsh, Hancock, Hurt, and Stiles, accepts a grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to the Metropolitan Board of Health for the ongoing collection of data on ambient air concentrations for fine particulate matter in Nashville. RS 2020-683, Toombs, Taylor, Welsh, Sorora, and Stiles, approves Amendment 6 to a grant from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to the Metro Social Services Commission to provide meals that meet RDA nutritional guidelines and transportation services to eligible seniors and handicapped residents. RS 2020-684, Toombs and Van Reese, accepts an in-kind grant from Gray and Linda Carter to the Metro Nashville Parks and Recreation Department of 2 works of art by Paul Lancaster for the permanent collection at the Parthenon. RS 2020-685, Toombs, Van Reese, Welsh, and Stiles, accepts a grant from the Centennial Park Conservancy to the Metro Nashville Parks and Recreational Department for installation and 2 years monthly expense for Wi-Fi at the Parthenon. RS 2020-686, Toombs, Gamble, and Sorora, accepts an emergency management performance grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Office of Emergency Management to subsidize the emergency management program. RS 220-687, Toombs, authorized the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Ryan Ingram in the amount of $10,000. RS 2020-688, Toombs, Nash, Welsh, Hancock, Allen, Sorora, Bradford, and Stiles, accepts a community and recovery tree planting grant from Keep America Beautiful in partnership with the United Parcel Service to Metro Public Works Department to provide funding to restore the destroyed tree canopy in Nashville neighborhoods and the Stones River Bend Regional Park by the March 2020 tornado. RS 220-691, Toombs, Nash, and Stiles, approves a participation agreement between the University of Tennessee and the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewage Services for the development of an urban waters report card. BL 2020-552, Toombs, Hauser, Sorora, and Porterfield, approves a contract between the Mayor's Office and the United Way of Middle Tennessee to provide one-on-one financial counseling and other financial education services at no charge to low-income residents in accordance with the Financial Empowerment Center program model. That is everything on the consent agenda. Do we have anything else that needs to be bumped? Okay, seeing no hands, we will go ahead and vote.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Young. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Director Cooper, will you take the vote, please?
Yes. Allen,
Aye.
Benedict,
Aye.
Ruffle,
Aye.
Glover,
Aye.
Mendez. Councilmember Mendez is on the call. He's having sound issues. Porterfield,
Aye.
Roten,
Aye.
Suara,
Aye.
Syracuse,
Aye.
Toombs, Councilmember Toombs,
Aye.
Vercher,
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
I'll try Councilmember Mendez. 11 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you so much, Director Cooper. Resolution RS 2020-656, Toombs, Nash, O'Connell, Bradford, Van Reese, and Stiles, expresses the endorsement of the Metro Council for the Metro Nashville Transportation Plan. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded, and we do have some amendments to this resolution. We'll start with Amendment 3. Councilmember Roten, are you on the call?
I am. Thank you, Chair. Y'all, this amendment's just an easy one. I was out quarantined when we went over this with the administration, and there were two projects they left out. One has been on the CIB since 1974, and the other is a train stop. I have 5 miles of commuter rail running through my district, but I don't have a train stop. So one day, I don't know when that will be, I would like to be able to actually get on a train that runs through my district. And so those were the two projects that were not put in, and that's all I really care about in my district at this time. I've been trying to get them since I started. And as I said, one of them's been on the CIB since 1974, and I do not want to keep it left out if this plan becomes sort of a CIB for all of us. So that's why I did this amendment. I talked with the administration. They were okay with it. I'm sorry to take up all of y'all's times, but I would ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Roten. Was that a move for approval?
Yes, please. Thank you. I move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. It's been moved and properly seconded. Do we have any discussion on this amendment? And
Madam Chair.
Councilmember Sora, you're recognized.
Thank you. I was having a problem with my mute button. I just have a question, and it's just for my sake, for clarification. Just listening to Councilmember Roten, does that mean that anything that is not put in now doesn't get to be in the CIB later, or what? I mean, don't we have a separate CIB, or how does? I just want a clarification.
Yeah, if I can answer that. Swore the Councilmember swore that the thing that happened is that I was not certain if what was listed in this new plan would eventually turn into sort of a CIB or a plan. And so I just took the two things that I've been pushing for a long time, as have previous council members, and asked that they make sure they were in there just in case. They told me it would not affect the CIB or how we did that. So, but I asked them, could I just put these in there to make sure and to show people in my district that I'm paying attention to these two items? And they said it's no problem. They didn't have a problem with it. So that's where it came from. So I apologize if I'm confusing anyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Roten. Councilmember Sora, did that answer your question?
It does. So basically, I mean, yes, it does. It does. The CIB is still there, and so we don't, other than this amendment, we don't have to keep adding any other amendments to the plan because our CIB stays as it is. That's just what I needed. Thank you. It does. Thank you, Councilmember Roten. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Councilman Mendez. You're recognized. Okay, Councilman Mendez has his hand up, but I know he was having some sound issues, so I don't know that he is able to unmute. Councilman Young, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Councilman Roten mentioned several miles of commuter rail in his district without a stop. I'm curious if the councilman has pondered that perhaps there's not a stop because no one would like to get off there to come see him.
I've been thinking that for a long time. Zach, I've always wondered why you don't come see me, and now I know. No, but on a more serious note, everyone, this is just, we have a commuter rail. We have one stop in downtown, two in Davidson County. Wilson County already has 4 stops. You know, at some point, we're either going to have to, I won't say that. We're just going to have to either get on the train or get off the train when it comes to the train in Davidson County. This is just making sure that that is on the list, and just so when people look at this, they see that someone is actually thinking about the Music City Star moving forward. I know it may never be funded before I die, but I'm just hoping that someone sees it and, realizes, hey, we need more stops in Davidson County. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Roten. I don't see any other hands in the queue. I'm scrolling the list one more time. Oh, I apologize. Councilmember Vercher, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So, Councilman Roten, you made me think of an interesting question with your amendment. And I guess this is for the administration. Are we in the language of speaking transit proposal, or are we speaking language as it relates to transit plan? A plan and a proposal is two different things. So where are we at as it relates to the language and what we are branding this thing?
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Vercher. I do see that Faye, please forgive me. I don't want to slaughter your last name, but I do see that she's on the call, as well as Mr. Jamison. Mr. Jamison, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Council Lady Vercher. So this is a transit plan, and that comes with very specific technical language through federal legislation, the United States Code annotated. As long as we have that plan that complies with three essential requirements, that is, that there be an approved plan, that it be commensurate with the regional and state plans, and that there be some cost projection for described projects, it need not be binding. And so, therefore, you will see Councilman Roten's amendment today, two others today, but you'll see others down the road, no doubt. The council does remain in charge. The CIB process and the capital spending process is what really governs. The plan will be amended and is automatically scheduled to be amended to be commensurate with state and regional plans. Mr. Massimo can probably state that far more eloquently than I can, but this is in the guise of a transportation plan.
Thank you, Mr. Jamison. Ms. DeMassimo, you are recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry, I was trying to find my hand. It just took me a minute. I just wanted to, the only clarification, I think that Mr. Jamison, as always, did a very eloquent job of describing all that. I do want to once more, though, say it is a transportation plan. It certainly has a transit portfolio in it, but it's also broader than transit, and we are definitely want to be sure that we underscore that it is a transportation plan for Metro Nashville. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Vercher, did you have any follow-up questions?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Jamison, and thank you, Faye. Thank you, Councilman Roten, also. So do we know where his stops would be for the commuter rail within this plan? Since it's a plan, if it's a plan, we should know, right?
Councilmember Roten, would you like to take that question, or would you like that to go?
No, I can take it. Councilmember Vercher, so both of the things that I submitted, one of them is the widening of Central Pike. For some reason, in the Improve Act several years ago, the state of Tennessee decided they were going to fund the widening of Central Pike from Old Hickory Boulevard in Davidson County all the way out into Wilson County. Metro widened about a mile of Central Pike and left about 3 miles unwidened. So if once the Improved Act is done, it leaves about 2 miles of Central Pike, which somehow got under Metro's jurisdiction, unwidened. Also, on Central Pike there, just down from Lebanon Pike, is where the Music City Star comes through my district. That is where the stop is envisioned. We had a meeting 5 years ago when we first started council with planning, the RTA. There were several other people at the meeting. We all agreed, yes, if there's going to be a stop running through this part of Davidson County, this would be the area where it should be, because there is a empty space there, and it's growing up tremendously around that space. And so this is just basically saying, yes, if there's going to be a stop on the Music City Star, this is a plan for the location. When it gets funded, council member, I don't know, but this is just showing that we're envisioning the Music City Star to be a part of this plan, and that we're not just going to let it kind of fall away and not grow. And that's my hope for this. And so that's kind of where I am. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Will your amendment be included in the 348-page document?
I believe it will. I spoke with the administration. I told them I wasn't trying to do anything, jump ahead of anybody, but this event is.
You are, Councilman Roden. I know. Sure you
are.
are.
You know that. Y'all know I don't jump in on things like this. This is just something that we had talked about when we first talked about the plan. I said I want to make sure that that's kind of, we're looking forward on the Music City Star, and they understood, and then we never got a chance to meet again. And so I just wanted to make sure that this, at the back of the 300 and some odd pages, it's there, and we are looking at the Music City Star. So that's it in a nutshell. I just want to make sure that when we think about commuter rail, that we're seeing stops in Davidson County, not just in counties, outside of Davidson County. So that's it in a nutshell. Sorry to be so long.
Maybe you can answer this too, Councilman Roden. Maybe I missed it. How was, with everything that went on with Central Pike, and I remember that you, Syracuse, and that other block out there. I think Glover was in on some of those meetings too. I remember all that. How was this part missed, or it wasn't missed? And your amendment is just ensure that it's in the plan.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that stops in Davidson County, and specifically, like I said, there's 5 miles. My district, it's 5 miles from one end to the other. There's several places where you could put a train stop for people who don't have transportation into the city, and there's no train stop. And it really, if we're going to make it something that we can use, there need to be stops along the way, not just put one or two stops in Davidson County. It doesn't make any sense. So that's the reason why I'm putting it in there. So I'm hoping they continue to think of the Music City Star as a viable option. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Roden. Ms. DeMassimo, would you like to respond to that as well? I see your hand is up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I wanted to be sure that it was clear. The station is already actually in the plan that is referenced in the council member's amendment. On page 31, we go through, there's a summary of all the WeGo Star commuter rail improvements capital. It's $139.6 million of this total plan, and includes a downtown adjacent rail car layover, double tracking and siding improvements, intersection improvements, crossing upgrades, park and ride capacity expansion, and includes possible infill stations at Central Pike, Golden Bear Parkway, Expo Center, and rail vehicle shop grade upgrades. 2 of those I know are in Wilson, 1 in Davidson, but I wanted to be sure the positive train control system piece that's so important, as well as other related improvements, page 31 of the plan, and they are detailed out. And I believe Steve Bland is also on the line if anyone has any more detailed questions. But I appreciate I think the council member's correct that during a period of time when perhaps he was out for a little bit, and we were all, I think we just missed each other in making that connection, but it is on page 31 of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DeMassimo. Councilmember Vercher, do you have any additional questions?
Why I asked the question, because page 31 itemizes it out. Page 32 says possible.
Ms. DeMassimo, would you like to address that?
Yes, ma'am. It's simply because the project hasn't been designed yet. So any of those station locations are possible locations. They're ones that have been in concept for a while, perhaps, or as the council member mentioned, were desired in some previous meetings, but they're just not designed. None of this is designed yet. And so being very specific about it, that will come with design. Steve, I know that Mr. Bland is on the line too. If he could be recognized, Councilmember Porterfield, that he might also be able to provide a little more detail to that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bland. You're recognized.
Need to unmute. I apologize. Most of the larger projects here, including the STAR projects, are still conceptual. So, for instance, Councilmember Roden is correct. We've met several years ago about a possible infill station in Central Pike, but because there's not a specific site identified, until we have appropriate property and funding and those types of things, it's hard to say with any degree of specificity what will or won't happen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bland. This is where I was trying. I know it took us a minute to get there, but I thank Faith for actually stating what the obvious is that it hasn't been designed, and Mr. Bland, you reiterating that. With the walk back bike plan being revisited, what does that do to the 348-page document?
Thank you, Councilmember Vercher. Ms. DeMassimo, would you like to answer that?
Certainly. It doesn't do anything to it at this time, council member, but in the future it will afford, as it's accomplished over this next year, or 18 months, however long it ends up taking us to do that and to look at sidewalk prioritization. It has the opportunity to inform future amendments to the plan, as well as be a consideration in the council's deliberations around CIB, CSP activities.
Okay, thank you so much. That's all I had, Chair. I got all my answers. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Vercher. Councilmember Mendez, you're recognized.
Just doing a sound check to see whether you can hear me now.
We cannot hear you, Councilman Mendez. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so very much. Did you have anything you wanted to add to the conversation?
No, great conversation. Appreciate everybody. Just checking my sound. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much. Ms. DeMassimo, your hand is still up. Is that an old hand?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry. That's just my ineptness at this tool. I'm sorry. I'm putting it down.
No worries. Thank you so very much. With no further hands in queue, Director Cooper, could you go ahead and take the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Truffle?
Aye.
Glover?
This is on just the amendment, correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Aye.
Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Suara?
Aye.
Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs? Councilmember Toombs? Vercher?
Hey, on that amendment.
On the amendment? I'm sorry, was that an aye?
Aye on the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Young?
Mr.
Aye.
Mr. Cooper, this is Councilmember Sledge. I joined from another meeting. I'm an aye as well.
Okay. It's 12 in favor, 0 against.
Amendment passes. Thank you so very much. And now we have Amendment 1 with Councilmember Murphy. Councilmember Murphy, would you like to be recognized? Do we have Councilmember Murphy on the call? Okay, we will come back to her. Councilman O'Connell, would you like to be recognized?
Sure. For my amendment?
Yes, sir. You are recognized for your amendment. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. First, let me start by thanking the administration. You all will see this is something that was very much a collaborative amendment. This is something that actually does adjust the master plan document. And I think again, speaking from the experience I had prior to council with 7 years having served on what was then the Nashville MTA board, to now working on Metro Council, staying very connected to transit policy. I think I'm just basically looking to make sure we keep an option open for continuing to invest in our most transit-ready corridor from a land use policy perspective that also serves the largest transit trip generators in the region between the state of Tennessee and Vanderbilt University. So that is what the nature of the amendment is, and I will encourage colleagues to support it. Happy to answer any questions.
Move the amendment.
Second.
Thank you so much. It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, it appears to be no hands. Oh, excuse me, Councilman Mendez, you're recognized.
Hey, thanks, Chair, Vice Chair. Now that I've got the capacity to speak, I feel compelled to. I just want to say thanks to Councilman O'Connell and the administration for working together on this. I know they didn't necessarily see eye to eye from the beginning, but I'm glad they worked through it, and I think it's a good amendment to add on to this. So appreciate it. I'll vote in favor of it.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Mendez. Going through the queue, there appears to be no additional hand. Oh, Councilmember Virtue, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I missed it. If the sponsor can articulate again what this amendment does.
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Virtue. Basically, it just leaves open, I think, more open than the original plan as kind of drafted and filed did, the option to make continued significant investments in the West End corridor, where land use policy already is creating conditions for success of transit, in fact, necessity of further transit, and basically supports the transit readiness of that corridor. Also, two of our biggest transit trip generators in the region, Vanderbilt University and the state of Tennessee.
Thank you so very much, Councilman O'Connor. Councilmember Virtue, did you have any follow-up questions? Councilmember Virtue, did you have any follow-up questions? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you so very much. There are no additional hands in queue. Director Cooper, will you take the vote, please?
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Druffel?
Aye.
Glover?
Aye.
Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge?
Aye.
Swara?
Aye.
Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs? Virtue?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
12 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you so very much. And now we have, we'll circle back to Amendment 1 with Councilmember Murphy. Councilmember Murphy, are you on the call? Director Cooper, is someone else able to move her amendment if she's not on the call?
Yes, anyone can move the amendment.
So moved.
You can
Second.
or not, either one.
Thank you so much. It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Or actually, Director Cooper, can you explain the amendment for us?
The amendment adds a recital to the resolution stating that there will be an amendment to the charter submitted to create a transportation department within the next few years.
Thank you.
In the plan.
Thank you so very much, Director Cooper. Do we have any, excuse me, I'm opening up for discussion.
Chair.
You're recognized, Councilman Glover.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I don't know why my video dropped, but it did. So, Mr. Cooper, if the sponsor's not there, how do we get to move this, and how does it not fall under the rule to automatically be deferred?
Because it's an amendment, it doesn't fall under the deferral rules. Anyone can offer an amendment to anything in committee, or it could be offered tomorrow night without a committee recommendation.
Okay, well, I'm just asking the question because I get a little confused because we don't always, I have a hard time following sometimes what we do. All right, and Chair, forgive me, but my video dropped and I can't keep up with you guys, so I have to let you know I just have my microphone. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Glover. And if you would like to be recognized, if you just unmute and let me know, I'll make sure to recognize you. Thank you. Okay, there are no other hands in queue. Director Cooper, can you take the vote?
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Druffel?
Aye.
Glover?
Aye.
Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield? Porterfield,
Aye.
Roden,
Aye.
Sledge,
Aye.
Suara,
Aye.
Syracuse,
Aye.
Toombs,
Aye.
Vercher,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
13 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you so very much. So we now have the bill as amended. Can we get someone to move it, please?
So moved.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the bill as amended?
I would like to, please, ma'am.
Councilman Glover, you're recognized.
So I'm going to make this very brief and very simple. While there may not be a binding resolution here or an actual dollar amount that might be spent, we just raised taxes 34 to 37%, depending on where you live. And now we're talking about spending $1.6 billion on this plan. You know, I think we need to get our house in order prior to actually spending money again like this. So I will not support this. And everyone that has spoken to me has said, no, absolutely not. So thank you, Madam Chair. I will vote no on this.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Glover. Councilman Mendez, you're recognized.
Thanks. I saw Councilman Sledge's hand up first, and I was getting ready to piggyback off him, but I'll go. So I want to thank the administration. This has been a tough road to go down, where there's probably more wrong answers than right answers. The whole city went through that referendum a couple of years ago, and obviously 2/3 of the county didn't like that plan. And I was proud to be one of the council members that pushed to get a more accurate price tag into the referendum on that. And heading into this one, I know that the mayor's been trying to balance making sure we move forward on the one hand versus trying not to make the plan run into the buzzsaw from the PSTD we all have over the referendum a couple of years ago. And I mean, there's lots of stuff about this that maybe I don't love, but at the end of the day, if it's going to put us in a position to compete for federal dollars, and we retain the ability as a council to amend it, and it doesn't override any of the normal checks and balances we have on spending, like the capital spending plan and the capital improvements budget, and this doesn't actually spend any money, it might be literally the least we can do as a city to move transit forward. And that in this time, economically, COVID, politically, nationally, taking a modest first step of having a plan that is just that. It's an outline of what this may look like, subject to all our normal spending rules and all our normal planning tools going forward. That's why I'm supportive of it. I think for it's easy to criticize it. It surely is. I've done my own fair share of it, but I think on balance, this is a step that's appropriate at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Mendez. Director Cooper, can you just clarify really briefly on a point that Councilmember Glover just made? Can you just clarify for the purpose of the council members that are on the call, as well as for the viewing audience, if this actually commits to spending any funding?
No, ma'am. This resolution has no financial impact at all. It's a memorializing resolution of the plan.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll sort of build off of what the other council members who've spoken have said. I agree that with Councilmember Mendez that this is possibly the least that we can do, and that's why I can't support it, because it is literally the least that we could do. And what I want council members to consider is that as we sit here tonight, we are considering offering our name, our voice, our vote, our support to a $1.6 billion transportation plan. We sit here not knowing if we will fund at the same levels our current transit service. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, right now, in our current fiscal year budget, all of our WeGo funding, our operational dollars, are funded with COVID dollars. They're funded with CARES Act dollars, special money that we are very thankful for so that we could use those operating dollars for other pressing needs. But we have a $40+ million hole in our budget going into FY22. And that's just to maintain current services. And folks, if you're a second-term member, transit service, despite the fact that we had a transit referendum, despite the fact that transit has been on the tongue of every policymaker and politico in this city for the last 6 years, transit service is worse. Transit service is worse. And we are about to endorse a $1.6 billion transportation plan, and we cannot tell our constituents whether there are going to be cuts to our bus service next year. So when you vote, think about that. Think about the fact that you might have to go out and justify, you almost certainly will if you're in a district like mine, you have to go out and justify why you supported a $1.6 billion plan that will not create one single new thing until we receive some sort of funding. And additionally, our operating funding is by no means guaranteed for the year to come. I appreciate the work that's been done, but a lot more work has to be done on this. For that reason, I can't support it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Sledge. Councilmember Soror, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I will be voting in support of the plan for a number of reasons. The financial or the lack of commitment of any funds for now is one of it. But also, I remember when the meetings was being held around the city, what is priority for people, what are people facing hindrances to their job and things like that. I remember people giving $1 and asked to name if they could fund something, what would they like Metro to fund? And people overwhelmingly said transportation, which means that just like Councilmember Sledge said, our transportation is not where it needs to be. It needs to be better. And so we cannot wait until we get the money to start planning what we want to do. The other thing is that my understanding is that without this plan, we actually limit our chances of getting the funding. And so this is a way to make sure that we're being proactive. We're not spending anything now. We will not spend anything in the future without all of us taking another look at it. But I think it allows us to say, what are the things that matters to our constituents? What do people really want us to do? Transportation is a part of it. We know it's not working right now. There are a lot of people that cannot get to where they need to get to. We know it needs to get better. And so we need to have a plan in place to make that happen. The other reason why this plan also works for me, I like the fact that it also supports affordable housing. It commits a part of the funding to making sure that affordable housing is included. So I think that if we want to just wait until everything else is ready, then we start looking for money, it might be too late. I think this is a proactive solution to a problem that we know we have, but we also know that we're also in control of, because we have the final say in what will be spent, when it will be spent, but at least we're giving ourselves a chance and giving ourselves a head start. So for that purpose, I will be voting, and I'm asking my colleagues to consider supporting it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Soror. Councilmember Van Rees, I believe your hand was up. Did you want to be recognized?
Oh, sure. Since my name is on this as a sponsor, I appreciate the opportunity to chime in, even though I'm not on the committee. I was just a bit bewildered by Councilmember Sledge's comments that it's not good enough, therefore no. I mean, I think that's extremely short-sighted. It's like we've got to start somewhere. We've tried to start somewhere over and over again. I think that everyone's gotten ample information and that this is a plan that needs to exist in order to request state and federal dollars that we anticipate coming down from the new administration. Without a plan, we can't even write the grants for the things to do, things that are in this plan, as well as anything else that we might want to do. I don't know how this got off track, no pun intended, but this is a resolution allowing us to grow our transit system. It's comprehensive in its ability to be able to declare what our constituents have said is important to them, but it's also quite simple. It's literally a plan that's necessary in order for us to even proceed. I know that there are a lot of things we need to do immediately, and we will address that in our annual budgets. But this is something that is going to be a process long after those of us that are in our second term are gone. And he said, I believe in his comments, to take a moment and understand that you're putting your name to this. And I proudly put my name to this. I think it's something that this council, 20 years from now, it'll be a legacy project, and I am proud of it. And I appreciate Mr. Sledge's ongoing enthusiasm and passion towards making sure that the immediate is taken care of. But this document is about the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Van Rees. Councilmember Vercher, did you want to be recognized?
No, Chair. I didn't want to, because we're going to go around in circles, and many of us already have the answers to many of our questions. So, to benefit our districts that we serve, where we are, we can't get concrete answers as to which areas are going to be priorities, implementation, and so forth. As stated earlier on this committee, we're not there yet. But we're asking to say that is viable. So that's all I wanted to state.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Vercher. Are there any additional, is there anyone else that would like to contribute to this conversation before we take the vote?
Yes, Madam Chair, please.
Okay, Councilman Glover, you're recognized.
So I know you guys don't like listening to me, but I've been around here for a while. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Take it for what it's worth. Councilman Sledge and I will agree on this. I know that may shock you. But you vote for this, the administration will come back and say, but it passed. We agreed on this. We don't even have a clue what we're actually agreeing upon. It has a price tag. And while it might be non-binding, and while there may not be a price tag today, there is a price tag for down the road. So, I mean, everybody's going to do what they want to do. I mean, I realize you guys don't seem to think you need to listen to me because apparently I don't know what I'm talking about. But I've been around here for quite a while, and people keep electing me. And I'm saying simply this. Pay attention. And this plan right here, smoke and mirrors. There is not $1.6 billion. Maybe we are able to write a great grant. Maybe we're able to get federal funding. But what I do know is the only place the money comes from is from the taxpayers' pockets right here in Nashville. So I will not support it because it is not thorough enough in order to actually justify this type of expenditure. Because I wouldn't want the federal government, no matter who's in office, to give the money to say, go for it. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Glover. Councilmember Swear, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I don't want to keep going around too, but I do think that to Councilmember Glover's point, I think that the commitment to the fund is very important, and signing stuff, not knowing what is important. That's why I think your question to Director Cooper, I want to ask it again so that at least we're all clear on that point. In the future, when there's money to be spent, Director Cooper, will that have to come back to us to approve?
Yes, ma'am, it will.
Thank you. So there is no way the administration will spend anything on any project without coming to us first. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that that point is very clear, because none of us, and I can say this for myself, that will want to commit to something not knowing what the dollar is if I know that's the final say. But it's not. It's not. And so that's why we keep asking. This only allows us to go forth. This allows us to start the process. This allows us to be able to have a plan to go for grants. And then anything else after that, we will still come back and we will still get to say yes or no. And if the timing of the amount is not right, we retain the authority to vote no at that point. So just wanted to make that clear. We're listening, and it's important points, but we're asking the question too. And so we all need to do equal listening to all the answers as well. So thank you.
Madam Chair, may I respond?
Just one moment, Councilman Glover. There is someone else in the queue before you. Councilmember Hurt, Councilmember Hurt, you're recognized, and we do need to go ahead, and I know this is a really, really important project, everyone. We do need to try to wrap this up. We do have about 8 more agenda items. Councilmember Hurt, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate it. And I understand the need for the plan, and I totally support that. I was very much behind Mayor Dean and traveled to D.C. with him regarding the AMP, because I knew how important it was for us to have some kind of plan. And all of that was tied to federal dollars that had also been designated specifically for Nashville and some type of transportation plan. And it did not work because we did not have the people we needed to be supportive of it. And I say that because I do support a plan, but I understand Councilman Glover's hesitation and his apprehension because we don't want to be drawn into anything. And as optimistic as I try to be about things, it is something that's within me that's making me feel that we need something more concrete that is going to help us move more successfully in a way in actually getting this transportation project that we need. So I just have some unrest, and I don't know if it's something that the mayor's office could say or if Mr. Cooper can say, but I just don't want to be, as Councilman Glover said, down the line, and we've been told something this time because we have a history of making promises that we break, and so I don't think he's far to the right thinking in this. I think that we really do need to seriously think about it, along with all of the budgetary issues that we have. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Hurt. Councilmember Vercher and Councilmember Sledge, if you all don't mind making your comments brief and focused on the budgetary portion of it, it will be very much appreciated. Councilmember Sledge, I'll recognize you, followed by Councilmember Vercher. And then if there are no additional hands in queue, we're going to go ahead and take the vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I will adhere to that. Budget related. So we received the status of these projects as to whether they're in the CIB and the CSP. Fully half of the projects that are considered within this plan are not in the CIB. So what would be the next thing that would occur? Well, then they'd have to be put in the CIB. Well, then we are talking about funding, right? Because that puts it in the pipeline to then be placed in the CSP. So supporting this does, in fact, have financial implications. It shows that we are giving our support to say, yes, these items should be funded. And not only that, the next ask of us will be to place them in the upcoming CIB so that then they can have the further opportunity. Another financial piece that I'll ask everyone to consider is that we're talking about this being the ability to apply for federal grants. Well, many of these state and federal grants are going to require a local funding component. So if the administration is to go out and obtain and, let's say, be successful in getting a federal or state grant, what's their next move? Well, they're going to come to us for the local match. What's the argument going to be? We obtain the federal and state grant funding. We need you to match the local funding. And the pressure is going to be on us to match that local funding. So there's another financial spending implication to this. And the last thing I want to say is, council members, there's two quick things. We have, in my knowledge, never led a CSP process. The CSP is brought to us by the administration. The finance director has approved those funds and said that they're available, and then we decide if that's how we want to spend the CSP. We made a very slight amendment to a CSP that we considered in this term that added about $1 million. Other than that, nothing went through. The table is tilted to the administration on any financial spending plan because the finance director has to say if those funds are available. And as many of us have experienced, we've experienced both sides of this over the years. Whether the funds are found to be available or not is not always a 100% fiduciary discussion and decision. Okay. The final thing that I will say is if you look at the projects that are shown in the CIB and the CSP, many of them have a note next to them. And the note next to them says capital projects associated with better bus service or for additional fleet tied to operating budget increase. Operating budget increase. So, again, you would be supporting a plan, much of which whose capital expenditures, whether they are paid for by federal, state, or local dollars, in order to be implemented, would require an operating budget increase. And as I previously stated, our skin in the game right now, Metro dollars toward our operating budget for transit is zero. Thank you, Chair.
Madam
Thank you
Chair,
so
please
very
don't
much,
forget
Kevin.
me.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder, Councilman Glover. I did forget you, so thank you for the reminder. Councilmember Vercher, you're recognized immediately, followed by Councilmember Glover.
Chair, you say I'm recognized, or is Glover recognized?
You are. I apologize, Councilmember Vercher. You're recognized.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Chair. My question is for the administration. If they can give us, and I can't recall, just the cost of where we are, how much it's cost us thus far for the planning, where we are as it relates to this new transit plan, I'm sorry.
Mr. Jameson or Ms. DeMassimo, would either one of you like to address that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you can hear me, I don't honestly know off the top of my head what, if any, expenses, but if I'm understanding correctly, if the question is what additional expenses outside regular operating expenses have been incurred, I think this was within our existing operating budget. That is no additional monies just on the development, but let me defer to Ms. DeMassimo.
Ms. DeMassimo, you're recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, that is correct.
What was the cost for the development?
We did it, we wrote it in-house, and we used some small amount of, it was Councilmember, I believe that I gave you those numbers once before, but I believe it was roughly somewhere on the order of around $80,000 for the additional work that we incurred for the. It was about, I think it was all together, all total about $200,000 for the infrastrategies work on developing the funding strategies, on the cost estimate and scope validation work that was done by HDR, and then on the traffic study evaluation, that very detailed traffic study component. All those three pieces of work are reflected in the back of the plan, but it was somewhere around, I think it was around $170,000, $180,000, something just south of
200,000. Okay. And, Director Cooper, I can't remember. Did that 200,000 come back before council to authorize as spending?
Not specifically. It would have been paid out of another line item that had funds available for that purpose.
Okay, thank you so much. And as it relates to this plan, would professional services come back before this council for approval?
Things like design, I'm sorry.
Yeah, usually design doesn't come back before council, but I'm just asking as a question for the public and for the benefit of the committee.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I was waiting on Councilmember Porterfield to recognize me.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Councilmember. Yes, professional services that deal with design and any like contracting services, those kinds of things would all come back before council.
Is that expressed in this document that we have, or is it expressed in the resolution?
It's a part of our A&E contracting services procedures, policies and procedures. I believe those come back before council for authorization of funding each and every time.
I don't recall. Director Cooper, can you verify that?
So the process for selecting architects and engineers is spelled out in the procurement code. The funding for that is included as part of the project that the council will approve in a capital spending plan. Sometimes you have projects just for design, which is for the A&E, and then other times that cost is included in the overall project that's submitted.
Okay, thank you. You clarified that. So basically, design doesn't necessarily come back before council.
It depends on the project.
Right. That's what I was getting at, Director Cooper. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Vercher. Councilmember Glover, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So I think we have something that's going on very unique right now. Councilman Sledge and I never like to speak for other council members, but he and I don't always agree on a number of things. But right now, he and I agree on this very issue. And he has been around long enough to understand that if we pass this, they'll come back and say, but wait, you passed it. And I'm simplifying the way I'm explaining it. But I'm simply saying to you, this is what will happen. And you'll feel hoodwinked because you get squeezed into a corner. And so, I mean, if nothing else matters, when Councilman Sledge and Glover are agreeing that we don't know everything and this is not a good way to vote right now, I would ask the council, please, to listen and pay attention. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Glover. There are no additional hands in queue. Oh, Councilmember Mendez, I was just getting ready to call for the vote. If it's extremely brief, we can go ahead and acknowledge you, but we need to go ahead and move on to call the vote.
Thanks, Chair. I'm as eager as anybody to keep it moving, but it's got a $1.6 billion price tag in here, so we need to make sure we keep going. Until we got it all talked about. Everything that Councilman Glover just said, like, yes, of course there's going to be more spending. Of course there will be more spending. Bus services cost money. To expand bus service, which is the number one thing that people agreed on across the county that they liked on the last transit plan, cost money. Bus services don't break even. there will be more money in the operating budget in the future off that. That is the point here. But people get services in exchange for that. So nobody should feel hoodwinked when the stuff in this plan costs money going forward. Yes, it's going to cost money. It's going to cost capital improvement dollars. It's going to cost operating dollars. I sympathize a lot with Councilman Sledge's version of that comment because he made the point he led with it's not good enough. I do wish there were more details. I wish that we could have be far enough along to be able to say what the sequencing is going to be, and that would put all of us in a better position to know whether we'd be looking at some of this cost in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years. But do not be hoodwinked when implementing a $1.6 billion plan costs money. It absolutely will. But the trade-off is the city gets services, people get services. Unless we're going to build a Trump wall around Davidson County, the city's going to keep getting bigger, and we have to figure out how to hit the puck to where the city's going to be, and that means accommodating density and accommodating transit and using the expanded tax base of a growing city to pay for that. So fundamentally, I just reject the extraordinarily pessimistic view expressed by Councilmember Glover. Yes, we should expect this to cost more money, and we should, again, take this modest first step to get a plan out there and then build from there, use it as a building block. Thanks.
Madam Chair, I have to respond to that, please.
Go ahead, Councilman Glover.
No surprise here. I mean, the mayor proposed a 32% property tax increase, and the council passed a 34 to 37% property tax increase on the floor. Yes, there's no doubt it would cost money, but that's not good enough. What I'm simply saying, take this for what it's worth. If we pass this, then the administration will come back at some point in the future and say, but you passed it. We have to spend it. And so therefore, that's why I will not support this, nor did I support a 34 to 37% property tax increase. We are not allowed as the elected officials in Nashville just to pull money out of the constituents' pocket whenever we decide we want to spend money in Nashville. You know, here's the question, Mr. Cooper. Do the voters get a vote on this before we would spend one penny of anything?
That's hard to say. If it was a general obligation bond and a protest was filed timely with enough signatures, then it could go for a referendum. It just depends on the source of funding and what the project is.
All right. Well, the simple fact of the matter is we just raised property taxes 34 to 37% on this council floor on the people of Nashville during a pandemic that a lot of folks have said the worst in our history. Could be, may not be. I don't know. I wasn't here at the beginning of time, and I don't think I'll be here at the end of time. Maybe. We'll see. But right now is not the time to commit to any dollar of any type of spending. So, you know, Madam Chair, I can't support this. And for us to pretend like it's okay to keep spending money like there's no tomorrow is absolutely not okay. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Glover. Councilman Mendez, your hand was up. Did you want to be recognized, or was that an old hand?
Nah, I think that's good enough. Thanks.
All right, thank you. There are no additional hands in queue. Director Cooper, could you please take the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Druffel?
Aye.
Glover? Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Abstain.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge?
No.
Suara?
Aye.
Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Bircher?
Oh.
Young?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 9 in favor, 3 against, 1 abstaining.
Okay, motion passed, resolution passes, excuse me. Thank you so very much, Director Cooper. RS 2020-657, Gamble, Johnson, Sepulveda, and Welsh appropriates $29,822,775 in CARES Act funds to certain accounts for the benefit of various Metro government departments. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. We'll go ahead and open it up for discussion. And if one of the sponsors would like to speak to the legislation, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. It's Councilwoman Jennifer Gamble speaking. Just to remind everyone about the resolution 657 that we discussed in a special call meeting last week. It's a resolution to essentially make sure that we spend all of the CARES Act funding that the city received from the federal government for COVID relief. We're at the last $29.8 million to address COVID relief, and the how it will be spent is in the resolution. 3.8 million for additional rent and utility and mortgage relief for our residents. Additional 1 million for small business grants to our small businesses. 5 million to Metro Public Schools to cover COVID-related expenses, and those expenses, I believe there's an amendment to this resolution that specifies and outlines what those fundings will be spent towards specifically. Also, the resolution provides that a reserve account be established in the amount of the $29,822,775 out of our operating budget to address COVID-related expenses after the December 30th deadline to spend, where we will still have COVID-related issues, but won't have additional funding from the federal government to address them. So with that, I will yield and take any questions.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Gamble. Councilmember Mendez, you're recognized.
Thanks. At the appropriate time, I'd like to move the amendment that's in the amendments package. I think now would be it if the chair is okay with that.
Yes, sir. You are recognized.
All right, so I'll move the amendment and I can give an explanation if there's a second.
Second. It has been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Mendez, you're recognized for explanation of the amendment.
All right, just as a brief recap for where we were a couple weeks ago, as Councilmember Gamble explained very succinctly, this legislation appropriates the last $29 million worth of COVID relief funds that we have to appropriate by December 30th by reimbursing Metro for qualifying expenses. That creates a resulting $29 million savings in the operating budget, and that resulting savings goes into a special revenue fund that gets to be allocated the way that Councilmember Gamble described. The couple of objections to the original resolution that were discussed at the last time this committee met was that it didn't lay out exactly how the $20 million bucket would be spent, and it didn't lay out how the $5 million bucket for MMPS would be spent. That objection's been resolved by listing out the categories and the dollar amounts. And then the other objection that was discussed was that in Section 8 of the resolution, which is a catch-all for any funds that might be residual that might be caught up. And I think the description last time from Mary Jo Wiggins was that that would be no more than a couple $1 million. But that catch-all category, it needed to be clear that the council is who appropriates that, not anybody else, not finance, not the mayor's office. And the administration agreed to an amendment to clarify that it would be the council that would appropriate anything in the future. So with this amendment, it makes it clear that we're appropriating to specific categories and specific dollar amounts, and we resolve any ambiguity about who's left to exercise any discretion for any money that might be straggling at the end, and that's the council that would do that. And so I would, I want to thank Finance and Mr. Jameson for working on getting the terms of this amendment right over the last week. So that's it, Chair.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Mendez. Councilman Sledge, is this on the amendment?
And Chair, I also want to speak.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Councilman Glover. Councilman Sledge, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thanks. This question will be for legal, I believe. So under the amendment, in order for the council to appropriate this funding, does it have to receive a signature from the finance director that says the funds are available?
The resolution itself received that signature since this amendment does not add any additional funds to the amount being appropriated. It does not.
So thanks. So if the council were to file a resolution to appropriate this funding, who then would verify that the funds were available?
You mean going forward out of the reserve fund?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
It would be the finance director at that time.
Got it. So after July 1, 21, if the council were to bring forth a resolution spending a certain portion, whatever it might be, of that reserve, which isn't really a reserve, but what would be the process that resolution would have to go through?
Well, if you're talking about spending money differently than what is provided in this resolution, then you would have to amend this resolution through another resolution and appropriate the funds differently in that resolution. So you could do it in one piece of legislation, but you would have to amend this because the council is allocating that reserve fund.
So that's helpful. That answers another question. But to clarify on this one, for the purposes of this conversation, it's within what the amendment states that the
correct
uses need to be. Then what would that process be?
You mean going forward if you wanted to spend the money on something else?
No, well, let's say, so let's just make up a use. So let's say after January 1, the council decided we needed to appropriate $3 million for additional PPE. What would be the process it would go through?
It would be just like this one. It would be a resolution submitted to council appropriating the money for that purpose.
And would the finance director have to verify that those funds were available?
Yes. I mean, all legislation spending money by rule goes to the finance director for certification as to availability of funds.
Got it. And would that resolution be subject to a 30-day review period?
I don't remember if it's 30 days, whatever the period in the rule is for the finance director, yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Sledge. Councilmember Vercher, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. This is on the amendment. Is there any clarifying language as it relates to hazard pay, or is hazard pay lumped in here somewhere under a different terminology?
Is there someone from finance that could address that, or Director Cooper, could you address that?
The existing hazard pay program that was in place ended in November, and so there are no, that would not be a use of the reserve fund going forward, since those funds had an expiration date.
And I see Mary Jo Wiggins from Finance on. Mary Jo, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, Director Cooper is exactly right. Those funds were all, hazard pay was all funded through the CRF, already accounted for, already appropriated.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Vercher, do you have additional questions?
Yeah, so emergency services are still continuing, and the hazard is still there. So what are we going to do to compensate our public safety officials? Like, how would they get how are they going to be paid for hazardous pay now? Or they're not, or they won't be? I guess that's the better question, since it already expired.
Ms. Wiggins, would you like to address that?
Thank you, Vice Chair. You are correct, Councilwoman Bercher. There is not a provision in these additional funds to provide an additional hazard pay program. So the program did end on November 30th.
Okay, and maybe you can answer this, Ms. Wiggins, in alignment with, and I'm just piggybacking off of my colleagues' questions. If the council wanted to bring forward something as it related to hazard pay, the current language that we have, from what I'm understanding from Director Cooper, we wouldn't be able to do it because this current resolution and amendment doesn't have that language, doesn't have it as a use. Is that accurate?
I think that's correct. I think, as Director Cooper said, the proposed spending for the reserve would have to be changed.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Resolution.
Thank you so much. At least we have that clear, that our firefighters and our police officers are no longer getting hazard pay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Bercher. Councilmember Glover, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, what I would like to do is on the bill itself. I just want to make sure I'm recognized, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'll come back to you. Councilmember Soror on the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Not even sure at this point, but I think it's in line with the two previous comments. I know that we're saying that the reserve is for COVID-related response, if I get that right. And so this is not even with emergency workers or anything like that. But let's say we needed more money for rents subsidy, because from what I've heard, I know that the Metro Action Commission is doing rent support, but their fund is almost gone with what they're working on. And so let's say we needed more than the 3.8 allocated along the same line, but this is different because it's also not emergency workers, it's not COVID response, but it's still helping the people in the community. How do we make sure that this reserve fund that we set aside, that we're still able to tap into it to do something like that? So Director Cooper, that would be, or Ms. Mary Jo, that would be my, Ms. Wiggins, that would be my question. Because then everyone is talking about COVID-related response in terms of hazard and things. What about things like this community support that we feel we need more money for? Are we able to tap into this special reserve? Or is there any way to make the language so that we can appropriate from that for more community needs? That would be my question.
Thank you, Councilmember Soror. Director Cooper or Ms. Wiggins, would either of you like to address that?
Sure, I can try. The existing resolution that's pending with the amendment, Section 8, specifies how any additional funding that flows into that reserve fund is to be used, and it's for emergency response needs. That does not include rent relief specifically. So arguably, this resolution would need to be amended to at some later date to change that language, and then also to appropriate the funds from the reserve fund, similar to the discussion we had with Councilmember Sledge a few minutes ago.
Thank you, Director Cooper. Councilmember Soror, did that satisfy your question, or did you have an additional question?
That's good, knowing that we can amend at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And there are no additional hands in the queue, so let's take a vote on the amendment. Director Cooper, will you take the vote, please?
Yes. Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Druffel?
Aye.
Glover?
Aye.
Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge,
Aye.
Suara,
Aye.
Syracuse,
Aye.
Toombs,
Aye.
Bircher,
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
13 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Director Cooper. Amendment passes. We'll now go ahead and discuss the bill as amended. Councilman Glover, you're recognized.
Actually, I would like to wait until I hear everybody else, and then I would like to be recognized last. Thank you.
I will come back to you, Councilman Glover. Is there anyone else? Councilman Sledge, you're recognized.
Point of order. Can we get a motion first? I move the resolution as amended.
Second.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Mendez. I apologize. I was trying to rush through there, so thank you for catching that. Is there any discussion on the resolution as amended? Councilman Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it sort of disturbed me, the conversation we had about the amendment. So as the bill is now amended, I want to speak to the bill as amended. You heard me, committee members, speak before about the fact that we will be essentially swapping out dollars, CARES Act one-time CARES Act dollars for dollars that we appropriated in the operating budget, which then frees up operating dollars. We are not moving CARES Act money past December 31st, frees up operating dollars to create this reserve. A month ago, I brought up the conversation that we have created then a fund with no ties to it. Right? No ties on what it needs to be spent on, direction on how it should be spent, direction on when it should be spent by. We have just freed up more than $20 million in operating dollars. Now, what this resolution purports to do is to create those guardrails, right? To create the framework of how that money is spent and what it's to be spent on. But in the conversation we just had, we just talked about how it can't be spent on rent relief, it can't be spent on hazard pay. And in order to do those things, and several others, I'm sure, we would then have to amend the action we've taken. In other words, we'd have to change the guardrails. And any attempt to do that would be against the spirit of what we've just talked about for the last month, about placing those guardrails on. Because if you can take a guardrail off to change a use for rent relief or hazard pay, you can bring any manner of resolution to do exactly that same thing for whatever can be funded by operating dollars. And this is the issue I have, is that we engage in doublespeak. A month ago, we talked about the need for guardrails be placed on about how this can be spent. But now we say that we're comfortable because if we need to change it later, we'll change it later. We are not creating a standard that people can rely on, that we can rely on, much less the public that we serve. So I have a lot of problems with the fact, I have a fundamental problem with the fact that we have almost $30 million left over from $121 million that we were allocated just for Nashville in order to help people. And we weren't able to spend more than 75% of it. I have a fundamental problem with that. So the fact that we're talking about creating a reserve and how nice is it that we have money to move forward, well, what happens if we get a federal bill that comes forward in the next few weeks that would cover all those costs? Well, we're right back in the same boat because all of a sudden we've double covered the same expenses again. So I am very concerned with how we speak about this money because we say that, oh, we've got to put guardrails on, but oh, those guardrails can be amended. And oh, this is a reserve, but it's not actually a reserve. It's operating dollars that have been freed up. We have to be clear in our communication to our constituents about what this money is, why it wasn't spent, which I think is the most important question, and what we're going to spend it on moving forward. Why is this all important, aside from being honest and trustworthy with our constituents? Because we hear this cited when we go up for things like state grants, the stuff we just talked about, and then we get told by the legislature, well, you can't even spend the money that was given to you. Why should we be given more? And we've seen it happen time and time again. Not that I agree with the state legislature. I very often disagree with the state legislature. But if we're not being prudent with the funds that are given, and quite frankly, if we're not spending the funds that we were given on what we're supposed to be spending it on, then it makes us look less trustworthy with good reason. And it makes people not believe us when we come to them and say, trust us, we know how to spend the money. I don't know where I'm going to fall on this bill. I just think it's ridiculous that we didn't spend $121 million when people are out here hurting, getting crushed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Sledge. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I would like some clarification from Finance, Ms. Wiggins. Metro has spent or will spend the entire $121 million, correct? My understanding is that because of some changes in the federal guidelines for these funds, that some monies that we normally would pay out of our operating expenses, we can actually use CARES funds for. So so with those funds being freed up in our operating budget, that allows us to have money to continue to assist people and to cover our expenses past that December 30th date. So it's not accurate that we have not spent all of the money. We will have spent all of the $121 million, correct, Ms. Wiggins?
Yes, thank you, Chair Toombs. You're correct. This resolution would be the final spend. And the fact that we have the $29.8 million left over is not because we couldn't spend it or that we couldn't get the money pushed out fast enough. It was very deliberate. The Financial Oversight Committee spent multiple hours every week since July, considering the applications that came forward and also tracking what was happening at the state and federal level for future funding. And it became very clear in summer that December 30th wasn't a magic date and that the virus was not going to go away on December 30th and that the city would continue to incur expenditures after December 30th. And there are no budgeted funds for those expenses to be paid for. So as the city incurred additional expenditures after December 30th, if the federal government didn't provide any more funding, there wouldn't be anything to cover those expenditures. And not just the city's expenditures, but also additional community needs. So it was not that we couldn't push the money out fast enough. I think the committee was extremely deliberate to be thoughtful and intentional to see where those needs would fall, to see what the city's ongoing expenditures would be, and to see what the state and federal governments would provide. So at that same time, in late summer, the U.S. Treasury guidance was updated that made it a very clear path for the spending of public safety or public health department salaries that were already budgeted. Spending the funds on already budgeted items was originally not allowed. So that was a big deal, and it quickly became an option for us that we knew we could get to the end. And if the feds never extended our date for use of funds, or if they didn't give us additional funds, that this strategy of spending on the public safety salaries would allow us to extend the use of the funds and also provide not only the additional funding for the city's emergency response, but this resolution does include $3.8 million of additional rent, mortgage, and utility assistance, and it does provide an additional $1 million for our small business grants. So it's not just city emergency response. That $3.8 million and $1 million is already in this resolution. So we will have spent every dollar by December 30th on eligible expenditures, and also provided a strategy for having funds to cover expenditures, not just for Metro, but also for the community. And I shared this on Monday, but for those that couldn't join, I think it's also important to know that this strategy became very common. I just wanted to share a few other cities. Phoenix is spending $143 million of their $293 million on public safety salaries. Albuquerque, $110 million of $150. San Antonio is spending $149 million of their $270 that they were allocated. And Austin, Texas is spending $90 million on $170 million. So cities that were able to substantiate those funds quickly decided public safety salaries are eligible. We're going to spend that so that we can then create this reserve. It's basically the spend, the save, and create the reserve. you then have that ability to spend that reserve on your continued operations, whether they are the city response or community. And this presents a blend of both.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggins. Councilmember Toombs, did you have any follow-up questions?
No, I didn't. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate Ms. Wiggins' explanation, which is really helpful. And it would help me to visualize where all this money went if there were a chart or something that started with the 121 million at the top and sort of showed all the breakdowns. Does that exist, or could someone help put that together? I've got a starting point I'm happy to share, but if it exists already, it would help me to see it so that I could understand where all the money went and where this 29 million fits in that before or after the December 31.
Not Councilman, excuse me, Ms. Wiggins, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Allen, I have that. I'm happy to send it as we speak. If Director Cooper can send it, and then make sure all of council gets it.
Thank you. That would be very helpful.
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized. Is that an old hand, Councilman? Okay, thank you so much. Councilmember Glover, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So here's my question. We have the money in our Metro budget. If the emergency would not have occurred, would we have spent the money we spent? Yes or no? I'm not sure who answered that.
Ms. Wiggins, would you like to take a stab at that, or Director Cooper, would you like to take a stab at that?
I think if he's referring to the 29 million, yes, that is budgeted money that we would have spent.
So therefore, Mr. Cooper, if we already had it in our budget, and then, unfortunately, all this stuff happened, and we figured out a way to, pay other things out of federal money, which, again, I will argue is taxpayer money, then how exactly are we doing this? Because it makes no sense to me, because we could, and actually, here's the real question, Mr. Cooper. Could we have spent that money out of the COVID stuff, the CARES Act, and then actually taken the money we saved out of that and put it into a reserve fund versus playing the games we're playing as we seem to be playing right now? Simple yes or no.
No.
Why not?
Because what you're able to do now is use CARES Act money for budgeted expenditures that you would otherwise have to use local tax dollars for. What that does is it frees up those local tax dollars to be used for the COVID-related expenses we know we're going to have after January 1st. So it's a mechanism to basically leverage those funds to be able to get some relief further in the year.
Okay. Well, let me go ahead and take the question a little further then. Since you said that we already know we're going to have expenses on, because I don't know how we know it, but apparently we do. Now,
for salaries for public safety workers.
Yeah, I get it. But here's another thing. We were told we'd be falling short on tax dollars in the first of the year. That did not happen. We actually exceeded what was in our projections in our budget. So what exactly are we supposed to believe today, Mr. Cooper?
I have not seen any updated revenue numbers, so I can't speak to that. I'd have to defer that to finance.
Okay. Well, so again, I'm not going to vote for this because I think we're being irresponsible on the way we're doing it. Plus, I'm not going to vote for it because I think we're crossing lines we shouldn't. Anybody else wants to vote for it, knock yourselves out, but I won't go there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Glover. Councilmember Gamble, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just wanted to reiterate some of the comments that have been stated earlier. I appreciate Councilman Sledge's concern, and I just want to state that the COVID-19 Financial Oversight Committee thought long and hard. We had long discussions about not allocating the remaining $29 million because there is a lot of need in the city. But when we thought about how the need will continue beyond the December 30 cutoff for this particular CARES Act funding had to be spent, and how we might be able to use the remaining dollars to cover acceptable expenses and then free up money in the budget to cover COVID-related needs after January 1. We thought it was a strategy. It was not a decision that said, oh, well, we don't know how to spend the rest of the money. This was a well thought out strategy of how to be equitable and responsible in addressing this COVID-19 crisis at the present time and after December 30, not knowing if we were going to get any additional funding from the state, from the federal government to support our needs, support our assessment centers, support our homeless centers, support our PPE and our public safety overtime and health order implementations. There's a lot of things that go into addressing that we have to address with this COVID crisis. And the committee felt that it would be responsible and prudent to spend the remaining dollars, which is less than 25%, on eligible expenses through December 30 in order to free up funding in our operating budget that we did not budget for this COVID-19 crisis in order to cover expenses that we have after that point. So I just wanted to make it clear that this was a well thought out, long hour discussed decision that the committee made in order to be responsible and equitable in addressing this crisis in our city. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Gamble. Councilmember Vercher, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. This question is for Ms. Wiggins. Upon passage of the additional dollars for rent assistance, when will that be communicated to those agencies so that citizens won't be continued to be turned away?
Yes, Councilmember Vercher, we would be able to get that funding to United Way, who would send it on to the partners who have been distributing the funds as soon as we had a new contract in place. So it can take, a week or two to get that funding and contract, but it could happen even before the end of the year. These funds don't have to only be spent after 12/30. They just can't be spent until they are appropriated by the council.
Right. That's we get a lot of people that saying that. Anyway, you answered my question. So realistically, they're still looking at maybe about a 2-week turnaround.
I think that's probably about right.
That's fair. Okay. Perfect. Just like to give them the expectation, especially with us going into the holiday.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Vercher. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief because I don't want to try to time travel here. The greatest thing I can say is this has been a crisis for 9 months. And I know that we didn't get funding or we didn't get funding in place or we didn't put our structure in place until certain amounts of time had gone by. I think what you hear from me is that I wish we'd pushed harder, faster. And I appreciate the work of everybody who's on the committee. Trust me, I asked to be on the committee. I'm glad that the members of our committee who were on there because I think they represented us well. But I mean, people are hurting, and I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain $30 million is getting rolled over that we could have given to you. And oh, by the way, the guardrails that we're putting on this week don't allow me to put additional past what we're doing toward rent relief. I'll have to go fight another legislative battle on that. I think what you're hearing from sort of political opposites tonight in this committee is sometimes some of us feel that too much is gone or that something hasn't happened the way it should. And some of us are saying, we haven't gone far enough. And I want to be very clear that I'm saying we didn't go far enough. And I'm worried that this resolution going forward is actually going to further constrict our ability to help people. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so very much. And Councilmember Soror is the last person in queue. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. I do appreciate the work of the committee as well, but I think that where the administration dropped the ball, in my opinion, is at the point where we knew that the COVID fund could be used for reimbursable expenses. Maybe we should have let us know and move the expenses that we already spent, and then make the rest where it's unrestricted and we can start using it in a better way. I think by not doing that, because I remember when the funds first started coming in, we were asking if we can use it to reimburse. I remember I asked that so many times, and we kept telling us that no, it cannot be used for reimbursement. It has to be COVID specific. And I think in September, October, therein is when we find out that it could be. And at that point, we did not do that. I wish we had done that sooner. I wish we had taken all the money that we spent that could be reimbursed, put it in there, and know that we now have 30, 20 million that we found that is unrestricted, so that when the committee is looking at how to give it to people, there will not be so much constraint on it to the point that people are still holding. I think that's where we dropped the ball. But the deed is already done. The problem is that by the end of the month, if we did not take the money that we've already spent and reimbursed it so that we can account for it as spent under the CARES Act, we will lose it. That is the reason why that is being done at the last minute now, when it should have been done in October. So my take is, and Director Cooper, I don't know if we can do this tomorrow on the floor, is that I'm okay that we took the reimbursement. I'm sad we did it late. I'm sad that people are still hurting. I'm sad that we're trying to close out these grants at the last minute, trying to do everything. But we need to do it in a way that when we do move the money forward, that we are able to still carve out something to help the people. Whatever mechanism we need to do, whether we need to amend it tomorrow on the floor, whether everybody understands that we're still going to need some more amendments, because these unrestricted funds, we have businesses come back because they didn't meet the criteria. We have people that didn't get hazard pay because they didn't meet the criteria. When we could have made it unrestricted, when the federal government said we could, we did not do that. So, but we need to move it over now. We have to vote for it. Otherwise, if we don't move it over and reimburse it, we will lose it. So we got to do that. I just want to make sure that can we do it in a way that the unrestricted part of it is still not constrained in a way that it doesn't help the people. So, Director Cooper, can we do it tomorrow? Or what is the best way to just make sure that this money, as we're moving it forward, still does not have so many compliance requirements, basically still making it restricted? Because that's what we're doing, instead of making it where it's unrestricted to where we can do what we need to do for our people. That's my question or recommendation or whatever we need to do. I don't think it should be so restricted that we cannot change it.
You could try to offer a late amendment tomorrow, but it would take essentially unanimous consent, and with 3 committee members, COVID CARES Act committee members on the council, that would be unlikely, I would think. The other thing that potentially could be done, as we discussed earlier, is if the council wants to come back and revisit this reserve fund concept and change the parameters for how the money's spent, the council has the legal authority to do that, because they are unrestricted funds.
Okay. So I'm saying that's what you and I talked about earlier, because that was my concern as well. I understand what we're trying to do. We're not doing anything illegal. We should have done it sooner. We should have done more with it. But here's where we are. But we should also not tie our hands or tie the hands of the committee to where if we find out there's more need in the community, we've made something that we cannot change. So I'm going to ask my colleague, maybe not tomorrow, but we should be able to change this to help people further. I don't think this money should be so restricted for the full amount that we cannot help the businesses and the individuals. It would defeat the whole purpose. in my own opinion. So thank you all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Sora. And Director Cooper, if you could clarify, this does have 3.8 for rent and mortgage relief, 1 million for small business, and 5 million for schools. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that was clarified in case anyone missed it. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized, followed by Councilmember Mendez.
Thank you, Madam
I'd like to begin, Chair.
Vice Chair. Just again, a question about data. Could Councilmember Gamble or one of the other members who's on the CARES committee give us some idea of how many people were turned away? Do we have an accounting of how short we were in what categories that could be useful in terms of ensuring that either the guardrails that we've put in place are appropriate, or as Councilmember Suarez suggested, that we might want to change those?
Thank you, Vice Chair. If you want to recognize me, I'd be happy to start and probably rely on Mary Jo Wiggins to help with that as well.
Councilmember Gamble, you're recognized.
Thank you. We received bi-weekly reports as a condition in all of the resolutions that were passed, that were recommended by the committee and passed by the council. There was a condition that we received bi-weekly reports from our administrating partners, United Way for rent, mortgage, and utility relief, Second Harvest Food Bank for the food relief, Pathway Lending, who administered the small business relief. And then we also had other partners that administered technical business relief. We received bi-weekly reports from them. The last report we received was last Thursday during our meeting. All of the funds that were administered were on track to be depleted by the end of the month. At last count, it was over 300 businesses that have received relief, over 3,000 individuals have received rent, mortgage, and utility relief. I don't even recall the number for food relief, but there has been a big impact in what we have as a council allocated towards COVID relief to the residents and the businesses in our city. This resolution attempts to continue that through December 30 and after, as long as we can, without knowing if we will get additional funding. So I'll let Mary Jo, if you have any other specific data points to share. I don't have them all in my head right now.
No, thank you, Councilmember Gamble. You did a great job. Specifically, the funds have not run out for food. There will be enough to go through the end of December. We know that within the next week, most of the agencies distributing rent and mortgage and utility assistance are going to run out. Small business and live music venue are almost fully awarded. So everything is getting very close to running out, but nothing ran out sooner than we thought it would. So I would say the agencies that were dispersing the funds did an excellent job in identifying the need and getting the funds out. There were times we thought we might have leftover funds. That isn't really going to be the case. The two funding streams that were kind of the last to go out were the rent relief for the farmers market vendors and the grants for the nonprofit arts organizations. So those aren't quite as fully spent as of today, but those are still applications being received and work being done. So nothing has exactly run out of funds, and that's why the committee looked at what was needed most and what was actually getting, lowest in availability and highest in need, and that was that rent and mortgage relief along with small business. So that was the recommendation of this oversight committee, to make sure that we put some additional funds. That's the $3.8 million for rent and mortgage and the $1 million for small business.
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Allen, did that answer your question?
I think so. So I think what I heard was we haven't had people who came and asked for money that we haven't been able to give it to yet. So far, when people have asked for money, we've had it. And now we've tried to put in place a way to continue to have it for the categories that we expect to have continued need in beyond December 31st. Did I articulate that correctly?
Yes, Councilmember Allen, thank you for that specific follow-up. The only time that somebody applied and didn't receive funding is if they weren't eligible. So if we had somebody that had revenue over the threshold limit for a small business, they may not have received it. But nobody applied that was eligible and was turned away because the funds weren't there.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate all the work that everyone has done to try to get this to the most vulnerable groups. And I hope we can continue to learn from our experience and get better and better at this and be through needing it soon. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Allen. Councilmember Glover, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess I have I have a couple of major questions. Police and fire, hazard pay, have we accommodated everything there in that arena out of this money?
Ms. Wiggins, you're recognized.
Yes, in a previous resolution, the council approved $20 million for hazard pay. And those funds actually ended up through the end of November. The hours accumulated, their checks are being processed this month to make sure they're paid out by the 30th. With payroll taxes and all of the other benefits, in addition to the hazard pay itself, it'll be closer to $21 million. So that appropriation that was made has been fully spent.
So, Ms. Wiggins, then, tomorrow when I call the FOP and I call the fire department, the fire hall, and I ask them if everyone has gotten the hazard pay they were told they would get, then I will hear an absolute yes. Is that what I understand?
Well, the checks have not been cut, so nobody has actually received any of the hazard pay yet.
Okay. So in the event we go ahead and vote for this tomorrow night, what assurances do they have?
Those checks are being processed by payroll right now. All of the departments submitted names. Those that were eligible have, the departments submitted all of their hours, and that is all in payroll I think fire and police actually are December 22nd. I can verify that date, but there are 2 payroll dates depending on what your normal payroll is for when those funds are going to be received.
Okay, so you will find the answer out for us before tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, I can tell you those dates here in just a second.
Councilman Glover, while she's pulling those dates, do you have any additional questions?
Yeah, was there anyone that was left out? Was there people that didn't get the money or I mean, I'm not certain how it all works because I'm not real comfortable in the way we spent the money.
So for hazard pay, there were 3 components of criteria, which was you had to be a critical infrastructure employee per the Department of Homeland Security. You had to be repeatedly exposed to the potentially, hazardous environment of the virus without the ability to have proper PPE or, proper shield in your office environment, and also in a position that is hard to fill. We needed to make sure that we could fully staff this emergency response. So in general, those are the 3 criteria. Not every person in every department ended up being eligible for the hazard pay.
All right, so let me ask this question, if I may. I'm just trying to understand. So when this all started, we started shutting things down, et cetera. They didn't have all the equipment they needed, and then we had a multitude, actually, of police officers and firefighters who got COVID and, got sick and had to lay out for a while. When exactly when did the qualifier come in as far as how is it paid for out of the I'll call it the grant for lack of a better word?
I'll look at the exact date. It was, I think, September 24th is when the council approved the hazard pay, but the program was March 16th until November 30th. All of those hours were covered.
And so what is the appeal process for the individuals in our police department and fire department that did not get it, that should have perhaps gotten it, and what recourse do they have?
The department heads have submitted any reconsiderations that they wanted for the committee to look at, and we have gone through all of those, and we have worked with the department heads. We don't have anything before us that's outstanding.
All right, so then therefore, is it fair for me to ask you to reach out to the police department and fire department tomorrow and find out if there are people that feel like they did not get what they were owed, and you can share with us that same information tomorrow night, please?
Sure.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Councilman Burcher, you're recognized.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. I want to go back to Ms. Wiggins' question, because we have neighbors that's watching, that they're actually texting me, that's watching this committee, that applied for assistance and was told that there's no funding. So when you were answering Councilwoman Allen's question, were you specifically referring to the small businesses versus a renter?
So there may be some of the agencies, I think there were roughly 40 partner agencies that received funding from United Way. And many of them did run out before others did.
Okay.
And I believe that all of them, as of this week, are now out.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that that's clear so that we're not sending mixed messages to the public. That's why I asked that question earlier during this meeting, and we set that expectation that upon approval of this legislation, that those agencies will get additional monies, and then they can go back through the process to get the assistance.
Yes,
that's just what I wanted to make clear. I have people texting me and they're watching this, so just wanted to make sure that is clear. We don't need to be saying we have money, we don't have money, we do have money, we don't have money. We just need to make it clear, especially going into the holidays. So yeah. Thank you so much, Ms. Wiggins.
You're welcome. And for clarity, I don't want to say that all 40 would receive the next round. That would really be an application process with those nonprofits and United Way.
Great point. Great point.
But there will be funding somewhere in the community. I mean,
right.
With those agencies. And it may be best for them to call 211.
Right.
They'll know who has it.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Wiggins. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Vercher. Councilmember Hurt, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. And I don't know if this was actually Councilmember Vercher's question. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. I'm not on the committee. But I have received a phone call from an employee at Metro Water. And I understand that some who work with sewer have gotten paid, and then some who have not, and they just work with water and they have not gotten paid, but they do the exact same thing. So I'm not exactly sure what's really going on, but there does seem to be some inconsistency in what's really happening and who's getting money and who's not getting money. And I don't want it to be relegated to a race thing, because that's basically what was stated to me. And they called me on in regards to that as chair of the Minority Caucus. So I just wanted to get some clarification on how that was actually handled. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Hurt. Ms. Wiggins, would you like to address that?
Yes, the primary difference between some of the workers at Metro Water and Sewer is if you work in wastewater on the sewer side, the virus is known to be carried in that sewage, and that presents a constant exposure just by nature of working in that field. If you were on the water side, the virus is not carried in the water and you're not subject to that exposure.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Wiggins. Councilmember. Did that answer your question?
Well, I guess it did, but I think what may have happened was a lack of communication, because what it does is put a lot of the employees in a very unsettling position, because they don't really know and they don't understand. So when some gets it and the others don't, it seems to be inconsistency within, and they see it as favoritism. So I think we probably need to look at how those things are communicated, especially, maybe even reaching out to the leadership of the departments, making sure that they communicate to their staff members and employees of how things are being handled and why.
Thank you for that point, Councilmember Hurt. And Director Cooper, just for clarification, hazard pay is not included in this resolution. Is that correct?
That's correct. That has been appropriated previously.
Okay, thank you. To Councilmember Hurt's point, I do think it is prudent for us to make sure that department heads are sharing with employees if they did not qualify as to why they did not qualify, so that there's not a perception of any type of discrimination or favoritism. Councilmember Mendez, you're recognized. And Director Cooper, if you could, Councilmember Mendez is the last in queue. So if you could, please immediately take the vote after Councilmember Mendez speaks.
Thanks, Councilmember. I just wanted to clarify one thing and then ask a favor of the group before we vote. First, on the clarification, now that the amendment has been added to the resolution, it breaks the 29 million into 10 different buckets. There's 3.8 million for rent relief, 1 million for small business, 5 for MNPS, which is for laptops and virtual curriculum. And then the other 20 million goes to assessment centers for 3.75, 3.5 million for contact tracing, 2.3 for vulnerable population and homeless support, 8 million for health order implementation and enforcement, including public safety, health overtime, and PPE distribution, 2.2 million for vaccine planning and distribution, 250,000 for increasing telework capabilities, which is important. And then the last category is setting up a catch-all, which we heard at a meeting a couple weeks ago. Right now would just be several $100,000. This is, we've definitely heard good faith questions about whether it's allocated exactly the right way. With the impending deadline of December 30, the favor I would ask is that nobody attempt to suspend the rules tomorrow night in order to change this. As Director Cooper mentioned, I think that would be likely to get at least 2 objections, and the suspension wouldn't work. It would be appropriate if there is consensus around some other way to allocate this money. The second half of my favor that I would ask for is whoever is building that consensus, whoever is taking the lead on building that consensus, let's do it at the first meeting in January. We don't want to get too far down the road and talk through the second half of the fiscal year as the money gets spent the way we're allocating it today. If somebody wants to go for a different approach, rather than an amendment tomorrow, go for it in the first meeting in January. And if there's consensus around something else, then let's go ahead and do it before we get too far into 2021. I do think that between assessment centers and contact tracing and helping people experiencing homelessness and the other categories, rent relief, small business, MNPS, these are obviously all needs that need to be filled too. So with that, I'll stop, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mendez. Director Cooper, if you could take the vote, please.
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Russell?
Aye.
Glover?
No.
Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge?
Abstain.
Suara? Councilmember Suara? Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Vercher? Vercher? Young?
Aye.
9 in favor, 1 against, 1 abstaining.
Motion passes. The committee recommends approval. Moving on to RS 2020-658, Johnson, Gamble, Hancock, Welsh, Soror, Allen, and Porterfield accepts the recommendations of COVID-19 Financial Oversight Committee and amending RS 2020-394 to expand the permitted use of funds, thereby allowing Metro Nashville Public Schools to use CARES Act funds for student and teacher laptop computers, hotspots, and pre-K through grade 12 virtual curriculum for students and school supplies for learning at home. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been properly moved in second. We are now open for discussion.
I'm going to vote a no on this. I have no further comment.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Glover. There are no hands in queue. Oh, I apologize. Councilmember Roten, you're recognized.
I know this is a dumb question, but Director Cooper, if I'm getting one of the free computers, do I have to abstain on this?
No, sir. I think you're good.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Roten. I think that was a great question. There appears to be no additional hands in the queue. Director Cooper, if you could take the vote.
Allen?
Oh.
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Druffel?
Aye.
Glover?
No.
Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge?
Abstain.
Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Vercher? Young?
Aye.
9 in favor, 1 against, 1 abstaining.
Motion passes. The committee recommends approval. And Councilmember Gamble, I apologize for not recognizing you on that piece of legislation, so please accept my apology. RS 2020-676, Soror and Toombs authorizes.
Madam Chair, can Councilman Sledge, is he a member of the committee, or what was his vote? I'm sorry. Point of order, I should have said that.
His vote was to abstain.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. RS 2020-676, Soror and Toombs authorizes the mayor to submit substantial amendment 1 to the 2020-2021 annual action plan to the 2018 to 2023 consolidated plan for housing and community development to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Soror, are you still on the call? If not, Councilmember Toombs, would you like to speak to this legislation?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. This is an amendment to the Consolidated Plan for Housing and Community Development that's administered by MDHA. It's awarding $3.2 million to help with rehabbing and constructing affordable housing that was lost due to the tornado. And Mr. Matt Wilshire is on the call who can give additional information.
Thank you, Councilmember Toombs. Mr. Wilshire, would you like to be recognized?
Just a quick overview on this. I think most of the members of this body would know this from prior resolutions before the committee, but Amel Alexander, who is also on the call from MDHA and really is the expert to this, can speak to any of the questions that you all have. But as you know, we have a 5-year plan that lays out how we would do expenditures. And we were directed by HUD to amend that 5-year plan in order to expend this approximately $3.2 million of funding associated with, as Councilmember Toombs said, associated with the tornado and the July high winds, derecho. There we go. Thank you. And so these are federal dollars that actually come to Metro, administered by MDHA under an MOU that MDHA has with Metro government since, I think, 1994. So excited to be spending these dollars on behalf of the city, and happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Wiltshire. I am going through. I don't see any hands in the queue. Is there anyone?
Madam Chair, I would like to ask a question.
Yes, sir. Councilman Glover, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Wilshire, so when we go through spending this money and we look at every aspect of it, what metric or rubric, perhaps, is the way you look at it? How do you guys determine if it's good spending, bad spending, or great or terrible spending?
Great question. I'm going to defer to Mr. Alexander, presuming he's on the call, to answer that directly, as his team is the one that administers these funds. Amel?
Sure. This is Emel Alexander with Community Development Department here at MDHA. These funds can only be spent on eligible expenses that are predetermined by HUD. In creating this particular action plan, we met with representatives from the mayor's office. We met with the long-term recovery group and representatives from the nonprofit community to decide what would be the best use of these funds. So once we submit this action plan over to HUD, we will actually issue out a request for applications to the nonprofit housing development community to apply for those funds. Those applications are evaluated and then awarded for projects to, as has been discussed before, acquire, reconstruct, or rehab properties that were damaged by the flood. Those properties will come with a 10-year affordability period to ensure they remain affordable for a minimum over the next 10 years.
So I guess where I get confused, you said the flood. Are we going back to 2010?
I'm sorry, I meant tornado. There was a March tornado event, and the funds can also be used.
March 3, yes. I
yes.
mean, when you said that, I'm like, all right, I guess I'm lost.
Well, there was a separate flooding event that occurred in May, and these funds can also be used for that event that occurred in May.
And where was that?
I don't have the exact. It was a storm that came through in May, and HUD declared a federal disaster area for Nashville, and that made the funding eligible for any of those expenses as well.
Well, can we get that information?
Yes, it may be already in it's in the substantial amendment itself, but I can make sure you get a copy of it if you need it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was out of the office most of the day. I didn't get to read the whole package.
Thank you, Councilmember Glover. Does that wrap up your questions?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you so very much. There are no additional hands in the queue. Director Cooper, if you could go ahead and take the vote, please.
Aye. Benedict?
Aye.
Ruffle?
Aye.
Glover?
Aye.
Mendez? Councilmember Mendez? Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge? Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Bercher? Young?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 against.
Motion passes. The committee recommends approval. RS 2020-682, Toombs, Taylor, Welsh, Allen, Sorora, and Stiles approves a contract between Metro Social Services and Room in the Inn Incorporated to use CARES Act funding to provide operational support for a day shelter in order to stem the COVID-19 spread among individuals experiencing homelessness. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The caption for this one is pretty self-explanatory. This takes about $139,000 from funds that were for Metro Social Services and appropriates it to Room in the Inn so that they can provide a day shelter for individuals experiencing homelessness. So I'd ask for the committee to support this resolution.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Toombs. There are no hands in the queue.
Actually, Madam Chair, I have a question for Mr. Jameson. If he's on the line, please.
You are recognized.
Mr. Jameson, as we've shut down the downtown area and so many people cannot work right now, and they perhaps are becoming homeless, what kind of crisis are we creating on our own?
Well, I think, Madam Chair, if I'm recognized, this is an appropriation. Thank you so much. This is an appropriation, Councilman Glover, that was actually previously approved by the council in form back in June. This was the allocation to social services for a day shelter housing. What you're seeing now is just the manifestation, the implementation that social services has done, finding a provider that is Room at the Inn to provide the services. But the original approval was in June. We recommended that approval by the council and found it an appropriate use of the funding, and would still recommend the council's approval at this point. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but this is sort of a two-stage approach that has been taken.
Well, actually, you're not answering the question. However, I mean, I'm going to vote for this because Room in the Inn is great. But, I mean, some of the moves the administration has made in downtown is beyond belief. And that creates problems for the way I think about things. So I would really hope the administration at some point in the very near future would let people go to work downtown that have jobs. Madam Chair, I just don't understand why we keep doing the things we're doing right now and pretending like it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Glover. I do not see any hands in queue. Director Cooper, if you could take the vote, please.
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Druffel?
Aye.
Glover?
Aye.
Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge? Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Vercher?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
11 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Director Cooper. Motion passes. The committee recommends approval. RS 2026-90 Toombs authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the claims of Joseph Clara and Wendy Clara against the Metro government in the amount of $195,000. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Again, this is another one that's self-explanatory, so I'd ask for the committee to approve it.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Toombs. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a fairly large amount of money relative to some of the other settlements that we make, and it was caused by an improper U-turn, and the consequence was simply a written reprimand. Is there someone from Public Works that can just address what the relationship is between the offense or the improper driving of an employee and what the repercussions are? It just seems like when it has that much of an impact on Metro, perhaps there should be a larger repercussion on the employee or more remediation or something.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Allen. We do have Daphne Bugeli. You are recognized.
Good evening, Daphne Bugelli from Metro Legal. I was the attorney on this case, and the reason the settlement amount is higher than what we typically see is because there are two plaintiffs here. So the gentleman involved in the accident is Mr. Clara, the primary plaintiff who was injured in the car accident, and his wife also has a derivative claim for loss of consortium, which basically involves her assisting him throughout his multiple surgeries related to this accident. So the damages are quite high. And because typically Metro is capped at $300,000 when there is one plaintiff, this may seem like a high amount, but in fact, with two plaintiffs, the cap is $600,000. So that's why this is actually quite a reasonable settlement in light of those factors and the gravity of his injuries.
Thank you. I mean, I think the settlement is just. My question is regarding the consequence to the employee that caused the accident in the first place. Is there someone from Public Works? I appreciate that.
We have John Honeysucker here from Public Works.
Mr. Honeysucker, you're recognized.
Councilman Allen and Chair, thank you for acknowledging me. Councilman, you want to know the repercussions for this employee?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this employee, Mr. Nickens, he's been with Metro Public Works for 8 years. He has an immaculate record. This was his first accident. But prior to that, he had an immaculate record, and the HR department followed the typical protocol and standards with that. They did also give him a written reprimand, and also they provided him ongoing coaching on actions taken while driving vehicles on defensive driving.
Okay, thank you. I'm encouraged to hear about at least ongoing coaching and defensive driving. That seems appropriate. Thank you for that information.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Daphne, your hand is still up. Is that an old hand, or did you need to be recognized again?
I will remove that. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much. With no further hands in queue, Director Cooper, if you could take the vote, please.
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Druffel?
Aye.
Glover? Glover? Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge? Syracuse? Toombs?
Aye.
Vercher?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 against.
Motion passes. The committee recommends approval. And thank you all for hanging with us. We are almost through our agenda. We do have a late file resolution, a resolution appropriating a total of $200,000 from the Nashville Public Library and $183,000 from social services to various nonprofit organizations selected to receive community partnership funds. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Toombs, would you like to speak on this?
No, Madam Vice Chair. This was another one that's self-explanatory. An email was sent out that lists the various nonprofits that will be receiving the funds that are from the Nashville Public Library and Social Services.
Thank you so very much, Madam Chair. The floor is open for discussion. And there are no hands in queue. Director Cooper, if you could take the vote, please.
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Druffel?
Aye.
Glover? Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge? Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Vercher? Councilmember Vercher? Young?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 against.
Motion passes. Committee recommends approval. Now we're moving on to BL 2020-553 Hall. requires a resolution of the Metro Council 30 days prior to discontinuing operations at the Bordeaux Long-Term Care Facility, the J.B. Knowles Home Assisted Living Facility, or Nashville General Hospital. Is Councilmember Hall on the call? Okay. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Madam Vice Chair, I'm going to be signing on to this, and I'm going to continue to work with the administration on it some more, and so I'd ask for a 1 meeting deferral.
Thank you so very much. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? With no hands in queue, Director Cooper, if you could go ahead and take the vote on the 1 meeting deferral.
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Russell?
Aye.
Glover? Mendez?
Aye.
Silverfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge? Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Vercher?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 against.
Motion passes. The committee recommends approval. And now to the last item on our agenda, BL 2020-554, Toombs and Gamble approves an amendment to a contract for the provision of body camera equipment between WatchGuard Incorporated and Metro Government. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Toombs, would you like to be recognized?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. This bill would allow Metro to take possession of body camera equipment, but not start paying on it until 2023. It also allows Metro to have because we can only do contracts for 5-year periods, allows us to have a longer period of time for this particular contract. I believe I explained that correctly.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Toombs. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you. A couple of questions. It looks like this is a rental, and but it does say that at any point we could, quote, pay the balance and then we would own it. Does that mean we will own it at the end of the 5 years when we've paid the full amount?
We will.
And do we expect it to have any life left, or what is the expected life of those cameras?
Now that question is outside of my wheelhouse.
Is there someone from another department that could answer that?
Captain Gilder is on the line.
Captain Gilder, could you answer that?
Captain Gilder, you're recognized.
Thank you. I actually have John Singleton, who is our IT director, who's going to speak to this issue. So,
Mr. Singleton, you're recognized.
Thank you. That's the life expectancy of the equipment is
Yes.
Is 5 years, and that is what we would expect, and then we would begin to replace that with newer equipment.
Okay, thank you for that. And then final question. We at one point were quoted an unbelievably high number for the maintenance and data management piece of owning, having body cameras, and it looks like this includes that component. So does that the entire cost now of dealing with the data?
Yes, ma'am. The $8.5 million would fully deploy body-worn cameras and everything necessary to all officers in the police department.
Over a 5-year period?
Yes, the deployment would be this year, but yes, it would cover the costs for licensing and maintenance for the 2 years of the lease agreement. And then at the time that we start making payments in FY23, we will assume the licensing and maintenance yearly out of operating budget.
Okay. So when I see that $8.9 million that was spread out over 5 years, that's all we're paying over that 5-year period. Is that for both the operating, the maintenance, and the equipment lease? Is that correct?
It is the $8.9 million is the amount of out. We are spending that $8.9 million in the next 2 years.
2 years.
And we and then the payments, the deferred payments for that $8.9 million is starting in FY23.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Councilmember Virtue, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, and I don't know if we're there yet, do we have a plan beyond the 5 years as it relates to replacement of equipment and so forth, updates and technology?
Captain Gilder, would you like to address that, or would you like me to call on someone else?
No, I think I'll let John weigh in on that, but I think the plan is that we just simply have to absorb that cost for the equipment at that point. So this is the plan to carry us through the first 5 years of operation.
Okay, so we're projecting beyond the 5 years, we will be absorbing that $8.9 million cost?
After the life expectancy of the equipment, we will be absorbing that the cost to continue the program through operating and further capital requests after the 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Virtue. And with that, I do not see any additional hands in queue. Director Cooper, if you could go ahead and take the vote, please.
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Gruffel?
Aye.
Glover? Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten? Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Virtue?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 against.
Motion passes. The committee recommends approval. And with that, this completes the committee's business. The meeting is adjourned.